Hello and welcome to F15, our new digital TV channel. My name is Sophie Spiegelberger, editorial team at Forbes DACH, the German edition of Forbes magazine. Here on Coffee and Politics, I talk about everything concerning US politics, and especially the upcoming election on November 3rd. Today, it is my pleasure to welcome Andrew Kostka, founder of Step Up for Democracy, an app that combines fundraising and fitness, as well as developer at Wikipedia. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you for having me today.
So as we know, the US presidential election is about 7 days away as we are taping this. And notoriously, money plays a big role in the US election, whether that's good or bad. So Joe Biden has recently been outraising Trump. There's a lot of emphasis on grassroots fundraising, and you have now developed an app that helps people raise money by exercising. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So what we do is we have this sort of like a walkathon approach to fundraising, where essentially you commit to a certain goal. Let's say this is 5,000 or 10,000 steps a day that you're willing to walk. And now you either sponsor yourself and or you have other people, relatives, friends, family that you invite to sponsor you. If you meet this daily goal, this money is then aggregated, collected, and sent to our partners at Move and Voter Project, who make sure that your funds get redistributed to different funds regarding Black-led organizations, Senate campaigns, different campaigns in the 5 battleground states, and also, very importantly, voter election protection in November. So.
That's an interesting idea. So where did you first come up with combining fundraising and exercise? We know those are two those two issues aren't traditionally put together. So where did you come up with that idea?
So this is a collaboration between myself and Barry Nailbuff, a professor of economics at Yale University, whose focus is in game theory. So the idea kind of came about essentially that I myself needed some motivation to go out and exercise and get my step count in. I'm a software developer, so most of the time I'm sitting in a chair and it's not very healthy. So, but I knew I wasn't just going to be able to commit to it, so I needed some kind of motivation behind it. So the idea actually started off as sort of like a charity walkathon, same effect, except that we had a negative factor as well. So you would commit to 5,000 or 10,000 steps a day. If you achieved those steps, the money would be donated to the Democrats or Democratic-led funds. And however, here's the kicker, if you did not make your goal, the funds would actually go to the opposing party. It would go to Trump. And so that would have been a really strong motivation to get me off my seat and actually get my 5,000 or 10,000 steps in a day, because I definitely don't want my money going to my opposing party. So that was the original idea. And so teamed up with Barry on that, and being a game theorist, we love this idea of a concept where you have this ability to win, ability to lose, and encouraging people to actually, go out and get their steps in. However, what we found out early on is, unfortunately, many people considered the risk far too great and weren't willing to actually attempt it because they were too afraid that their money or any dime would go to Trump's campaign. So we decided to get rid of that. And what we have now instead is just, if you succeed, the money gets donated. If you don't, it's unfortunately, it's not going to the opposing party, but it's not counted as raised for the Democrats.
Okay, so you mentioned game theory, and you've been working on this project with a Yale professor, Barry Nailbuff. So was game theory a central concept from the very beginning of this app?
Yeah, so the idea is essentially a couple factors here. Firstly is this encouragement to actually go out and do it, which is essentially you have your different friends and sponsors who are sponsoring you. You don't want to let them down. So the idea is from the very beginning, we want you to connect primarily with people you know. So there's this personal connection where, okay, if I don't succeed at my steps, I'm letting down my family here. So there's more of a motivation to actually get your step or to complete your goal successfully every day. We also have more of a gamification of this coming up soon, where We'd like to have leaderboards in our app where we can compare, who's doing the most, stepping, raising, who's able to keep up, be most consistent, has the longest streak. So working on that as well. And we also have this factor where we essentially try and grow the app by having one user sign up as essentially a stepper who's going to complete their goal, and then inviting other family members and people they know to join them, to either sponsor them and also become steppers potentially themselves, to try and earn money by completing their goal and living healthier as well.
Okay, so to clarify, people can be both steppers and sponsors. Maybe you could explain a bit more in detail what the stepper role and sponsor role is for people who've never heard of the concept before.
Yeah, so you pick one or two, or you pick either both or one or the other. And essentially what you do is, if you're a stepper, you set a goal. When you start the app, it says, you either can commit to 5,000 steps, or if you really want to get 10,000 steps in right from the go, you can do 10,000 steps. Although we find that people tend to like 5,000 steps more to start out. But if you're dedicated, you can go for 10,000 steps. So you pick a step goal, and every day your goal is to complete this target of 10,000 steps by walking, running, jogging, any way you get your steps in. And we integrate with Health Kit on your iPhone. So we can, if you have an Apple Watch or a fitness tracker, we can take those steps into account as well. So you don't necessarily have your phone on you all the time, but you got a watch or a fitness tracker, you're all set. We track your steps. We have a nice dashboard where you can see how many steps you got and the sponsors that you have. And so you'll have different sponsors there with their amounts of how much they're giving you. And so that's pretty much the stepper side of it. And the sponsor side of the application works such that you can get invite links from your family or friends who are steppers, who will invite you to sponsor them. And you can pledge to put up $1, $2, $5 a day or more that you will commit to donating, pledge to donate if they succeed at reaching their goal every day. So it's a daily step goal and it's a daily donation essentially. And they can view your process, and they will also get notifications if you do well, and they will get notifications if you don't meet your goal. So it's kind of this extra kick factor that gets your goal in.
Is there any leeway for maybe taking a day off?
Yes, at the moment we have every 7 days. There's this lifeline, we call it, where you can slack off for a day. We'll see if we're going to keep that in there. It was an original idea from when we had this opposing effect where if you don't meet your goal, your money would go to the opposing party. Since we got rid of that, we don't know how important that is anymore, but it's still in there for now. So if you'd like to take Sunday off, you can.
Good to hear. I'm sure a lot of people make use of that lifeline. So you mentioned gamification, the notion of gamification. Is that something that has been used in politics much, in app platforms for political issues? Are there any examples of other apps you've seen that use gamification to sort of mobilize voters?
Yes, in fact, actually, our two candidates right now running for president, both of their apps do this now. At first, it was just Trump's app who had it. There was essentially, you'd sign up, you could earn points, and these points would be redeemable for certain rewards. One of them was, I think, a certain number of points gives you a photo with the president. Another one gives you VIP access at a conference, at a rally.
Get those points? What would earn you those points?
Yeah, so earning you those points would be essentially inviting people to the app. And there's other ways, I believe, as well, becoming someone who does phone calls for raising money, etc. You can do different tasks, and you could then get these reward points that you could then redeem. And they also have a leaderboard where you can see who's doing best daily, weekly, etc. So they really had that down pat from the beginning. But that the Biden app now has actually caught up. They also have a reward system and a point system themselves, which works similarly. And they have leaderboards as well, except they focus more on a team aspect. So the leaderboard is you join a team and you contribute, what you contribute counts for the team. So there's more of a team versus the individual focus in the Biden app. But both of them do this now, which is actually very good because it increases engagement. And
Yeah,
and we're
well, that's great to hear that the Biden app is catching up. So do you find that there is a lot of use of new digital solutions in campaigning, or is there a lot of catching up to do? And do you think the Republicans seem to be a bit more tech savvy, especially on social media, as we saw 4 years ago? What do you think of each party's use of technology?
So I believe at least the voters themselves, the Democrats, are still probably more tech savvy. Overall, they're a younger population, so they grew up with technology, they're more used to it. The Democrats, I believe, still have a lead when it comes to using tech in elections. One of the most famous platforms for raising money was ActBlue. They're around since, I think, 2006, if I'm not mistaken. So they've been around for quite some time and already doing grassroots fundraising, essentially making it easier for you and I to donate money to campaigns and candidates we like. And they make it super easy for you to do that. However, the Republicans are slowly catching up. They now have their own platform called Win Red, where they do the same thing as ActBlue in essence. And this is an example of the Trump app. I think it's slightly more refined. So there are some places where the Democrats could maybe put a little more money into digital tools for elections. But I still do believe they have a lead over the Republicans.
So a lot of people wonder why voting is such an analog experience in the United States, why there's so much resistance to maybe digitizing it, casting electronic ballots, maybe voting in app is taking it a step too far, especially with the danger of Russian interference or interference by any other country. As a software engineer at Wikipedia and someone who deals with a lot of safety concerns in the web, what do you think about what would be the pros and cons of electronic voting?
So we do have some sort of digitized voting now with electronic voting machines, and we've already noticed problems with those already. Many of them are outdated. They run antiquated software, and the few companies that maintain them don't offer enough security updates or maintenance. So you can already see that there's security issues with machines where you're voting on. The one advantage at the moment to using this is there's a few different companies, there's different types of machines, so it's rather distributed. So there's not necessarily one attack vector that can be used to compromise all systems, which reduces your risk slightly. And if we were to move this to a purely mobile-based, like an app system that was unified across all of the 50 states, then there would be a central attack vector that people could maybe exploit, which would not necessarily be a good thing. So centralizing it has its risk of essentially it's easier and becomes a more clear path to actually infiltrating or rigging an election.
So basically the fact that we have 50 different electoral systems, which is usually seen as a downside because it's so it's hard to grasp at once. We have 50 different sort of little countries voting. The fact that we have 50 different systems is actually a strength because then you cannot compromise all of them at once.
In some way, yeah, it distributes risk more or less, and also the different methods we have of voting help make it more difficult to tamper directly with the election system than if everything were centralized into one app. So, and the problem is if you do create an app, you're going to still have to offer other means of voting as well. You can't just offer that. So it becomes more complex as well.
So you mentioned that your app collaborates with the Movement Voter Project. Could you tell us a little bit more about what they do and how the money that you raise then gets distributed, and perhaps why you're collaborating? So are they taking over some of the back end then that you need?
So the way we do it right now is we actually collaborate with a company called Momentum, who handles essentially our FEC reporting and our actual processing of the donations, collecting the funds and forwarding them to Movement Voter Project. Reason being why is, unfortunately, still there's complex regulation in the U.S. regarding funding elections or funding within elections. So all this information has to be reported properly. So instead of us handling this, we have attempted to sign up with some of the bigger guys, Act Blue and such. Unfortunately, they're rather busy with the election currently, so they weren't able to be as flexible. But Momentum stepped up to the plate and helped us get on board and integrate with their systems, so that we're actually able to collect this information and report it properly. And they're the ones who then essentially forward it on our behalf or on the user's behalf to Movement Voter Project. And Movement Voter Project then takes the funds and distributes it to all of the funds or different organizations they work with, like some of the ones I mentioned before.
So that means that you are collecting certain amounts of data and you know where people who use your app live, and what is the potential you could use this for? I'm sure the app has the potential to, for instance, tell people when they could, when their local elections are coming up because you know what state they live in. Is that something you're looking into?
Yeah, so we do want to look into future in down our roadmap, essentially adding the ability to notify our users when important local elections are happening and give them easy tips on how to get registered and how to vote in these elections. They matter as much as the top presidential election or Senate. Local ones matter as well. So we'd like to encourage more people to get involved in politics, even when it's just local politics.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I have one last question to end on an upbeat note. And just to let people know, do you sell on the data that you collect?
No, so we do not sell any data we have right now. And we're not looking to either. So I come from so the company I work for, we're very privacy oriented, and I'd like to keep that as well.
Which is
the only thing and the only reason why we have to collect most of the information that we do collect is for legal reporting requirements. Otherwise, I would rather not even have to ask for it, but unfortunately, regulations require us to do so. So we personally are not going to be selling this information on. It will be passed on to Momentum as they need it for the actual filing of the report. But apart from that, yeah, we have no interest in capitalizing off of this information.
Great. Well, that's good to hear. And thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure. And I'm interested to see where this app will go in the future.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here.